Good afternoon, everyone. Kenneth Gamble. I'll be presenting for you guys today on Live at the Waterhole. We are starting off here at Coral Bush Lodge in Sabi Sand, and it seems like we already got our first visitor. It appears to be a hammerkop. Seems like he's scouting for a bit of lunch this afternoon. I think we've lost him behind one of those grass tufts over there. I'm sure he's probably looking around there to see if he can come across an amphibian or maybe an unlucky fish. Probably quite the opposite of the saying compared to a lucky fish. I see we've also got some hippos wallowing, and a few buffalo have definitely come down to drink. It seems like quite a large herd. They actually seem to have encircled the hippo in the waterhole. There we go. Now we can see quite a bit of the herd. But while these buffaloes spend their time wallowing, I think we're going to go up to Aldonia, see if there's any elephants waiting for us. There we go. There's quite a nice setting at Aldonia. You can always count on a few elephants. So we've also got a herd of eland slowly moving in. They're definitely quite cautious to get too close to those elephants. Elephants can be a bit, I'd say, boisterous or territorial when it comes to water. You can actually see that one bull flicked a bit of water their way. And there's also a few brave zebra trying to squeeze in. It's quite interesting, those two bulls on the right seem quite alert for something, or their head posture signals they're aware of something. Got a few warthogs also scampering in the background there. Quite an impressive eland bull coming in to drink. That tuft of hair really shows his age and size. Hi Mercedes, it's good to be here. Hope we'll have a nice afternoon session. Yeah, I see the elephants have resumed dominance of the watering hole. Some very impressive bulls these, with quite large ivory. And also some smaller birds to the left there. Not super familiar on my Kenyan birds, but I would wager guess they look a bit like sparrow weavers, but I must double check myself on that one. They look quite similar to the white-browed sparrow weavers we get here in South Africa. Definitely say that bull in the middle seems to have quite a nice spot there. It appears as if he's got his trunk on the water inlet, so I think he's got a bit of a monopoly on the fresh water coming into the waterhole. Not sure if the other bulls are waiting for a chance or waiting for a chance to get there. So I myself am not a guide. Professionally, I'm an agriculturalist, so I work in the agricultural sector in Limpopo in South Africa. I work for a biological company, focusing on biological products, making a difference in the agricultural industry. But I grew up obviously with a lot of time in nature, and it's one of my biggest passions. I always love being outdoors, and so I enjoy being in agriculture. It allows you to be outdoors a bit, as well as trying to make a difference for the world. But yeah, I spend a lot of time either camping, bird watching, probably 24/7, and every other opportunity I get, we often visit the Kruger Park, so that's also quite a big passion of mine.
Join me, Andrew Wistenholm, for an indescribable 6-night stay in the beautiful Albany of the Eastern Cape at Amakhala Game Reserve. Now, this trip is going to be action-packed with a lot of storytelling, adventure, as well as the opportunity to make everlasting memories. We'll be exploring the best of Amakhala by staying at 2 luxury lodges, which will be the perfect blend of comfort as well as wilderness. Book your spot today, and let's get ready to explore the wild beauty of Amakhala.
Out here, every wild moment counts, and as a Wild Earth explorer, you won't miss a thing.
Incredible.
Watch the Wild Earth channel ad-free 24/7 and rewind if you want to catch something again. Enjoy behind-the-scenes videos, fireside chats, and early access to travel offers. The best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
Ooh, there goes the warthogs. You can see the warthogs and the zebras are getting a bit more braver. I think they definitely want their turn at the waterhole. I think they're just trying to test the waters to see if the elephants are going to allow them. I did see a gazelle for a second on the fringe, but I don't know if it's gone back into the brush. Well, it looks like those warthogs, their little gambit has paid off. They've managed to squeeze in under some very watchful eyes of giants. And that earland bull at the back there is quite magnificent. It's quite pretty to see that tuft on his on the front of his face there. It shows he's quite a dominant bull in his prime, and that large dewlap hanging at the front there does definitely signify his dominant stature. He doesn't see. I think he'd enjoy a drink of water, but I don't think he's too worried. Eland are relatively well adapted to dry conditions. They accuse the warthogs. I think they've had their fill before they maybe get a bit of discipline from the elephant bulls. The zebras are still mulling around. I think they're hoping to also get a slot at the watering hole. And it's quite a challenge for them because they are losing foraging time the longer they wait around to drink, and especially at this time of year in the dry season, there's a critical balance between staying hydrated and also having to travel further and further from water sources. So it does definitely become a almost an energy game or energy balance for the herbivores. And if they don't manage their reserves correctly, it can spell disaster for them. But also a good meal for the giraffes. Vultures. Hi Glenda, thanks for your question why the elephants aren't being more dominant. To me it appears as if the bull in the middle, with his half broken tusk, I'd say he's probably the more dominant one, and they are relatively aware of that. They seem to be content waiting to take their fill. I do see the bull next to him has got a snare around his trunk. That's quite unfortunate. I'm not sure if it's an old injury or if there is currently a snare around there. This is a bit strange, but what often happens with large adult elephants or bull elephants, you've got your dominant bull and he's got his younger Askaris, as they were referred to them in Swahili, kind of his protectors, and they learn over time from him. So it would be my understanding that he's probably the more dominant one, and they are aware of that, and they're just waiting their turn in line. Of course, maybe earlier there might have been a bit more action at the waterhole, and they may be all just also resting a bit, and they have actually had their full of water. But I think they're quite content to spend a bit of time now resting. Well, it's good to hear you're also excited about your bird watching, Julian. There's definitely no better place to be for bird watching in the middle of the African sun, or African day. All the wonderful little seed eaters always grace waterholes with their presence. Whereas most of your other birds tend to start roosting or taking a bit of break in the heat of the day. So it's actually quite interesting what does come down. Even sometimes your more secretive, I'd say, I don't want to say foreign, or maybe your more secretive, shy, elusive species sometimes come down. Myself and Hoedspruit, I've also got a waterhole in front of my study, and it's always very interesting for me deep in the dry season what birds do come down. Shame, it does seem like that elephant bull has got quite a bit of a painful injury. It seems to be old. I think that snare obviously cut in quite deeply, and when it was eventually removed, that scarring or damage had already been done. It doesn't appear like there's anything on the trunk, but obviously damage like that is irreversible. He does still seem to have control of the prehensile tip there, but yeah, that's a sobering reminder of the impact of humans on wild areas like this, and often it's animals that suffer the consequences. Jolie, I don't know if I understand the correction completely. If the water will spray out there, I think we'll have to maybe watch him drink. I don't think I've noticed him sucking up water yet. The one canal might not be damaged, but obviously it isn't a debilitating injury. He is still quite a large elephant and does seem to be doing okay. But I think it is obviously a bit more challenging for him compared to his companions. Veronica, so I started bird watching about maybe 6 years ago. To this point I've gotten up to 550 birds, all mainly in southern Africa. I haven't really birded anywhere else. Done a bit of birding in Namibia and Botswana and Zimbabwe, and obviously quite extensively in South Africa. But yeah, I'm at 550 now, and really enjoying it. Looking forward to seeing more and more.
even a hyena coming into the action as well now. Oh my word! She's stalking the hyena now. Leopard, hyena, lion, all together in one shot. Oh. Whoa. This is action-packed.
Do you want to know why impala are the most common antelope we find here in the Kruger National Park? You can ask me questions like this in real time. Our safaris are live and interactive here in the heart of Africa. Join me on Safari Live. Connect with nature.
Quite interesting with them. They do spend quite a bit of time making sure they are clean, and obviously birds like that being scavengers, it is crucial for them to maintain hygiene when they are around carcasses, etc. If they don't maintain hygiene, they themselves can pick up infections. There's one carefully stealing a sip of water. I think he is well aware of the fact there are some large crocodiles in this waterhole. See a few soaring shadows in the background there, but these marabou storks are quite content. They've obviously at some point had a good meal. I'm sure carrion is never very far away at this time of year in the African bush. You can see it is quite dry here in Victoria Falls. There's not many leaves on the mapanis in the background there, and so the grass cover is also quite limited. It does appear as if a buffalo herd has been frequenting the water the last while. Brazen-hearted. So one of the ways when I initially started working, I worked in the fertilizer industry. Obviously fertilizer is quite a crucial part in growing crops, but I wanted to do something more fulfilling, so I ended up joining this company that specializes in the use of biopesticides to control pests. And essentially how that works is, instead of using synthetic chemicals And while synthetic chemicals have their place when used responsibly, they obviously still have health implications on humans, the environment, and a lot of nations across the world are focusing on reducing their reliance on synthetic chemicals and trying to work with nature instead of against it. So, yeah, the company I work for, we one of the pesticides we produce is a virus. It sounds quite scary, but it's a host-specific virus for a type of moth that causes damage in citrus in South Africa. And obviously citrus in South Africa is one of the primary exports, and it's one thing that's exported quite well from South Africa. So by using a virus pesticide, there's little to no, or there is no knock-on to the environment. There's no danger to humans because once again it's a virus that's purely specific on the moth itself. It can't cross-contaminate or affect any other insects, people or animals. And it provides effective control, and in that way the farmer isn't forced or doesn't need to use a harmful chemical. There's also a lot of other ways. We also specialize in breeding beneficial insects that can be released into the orchards, and using insects to fight insects, augmented biocontrol, they'd say. And then also where synthetic chemistry is used at a very low level where there's not a lot of contact, there isn't any risk of it getting itself into the environment or being absorbed by the plants, etc. So those are some of the ways that one can kind of, I'd say, produce fruits or agricultural products in a more green and eco-friendly way. They actually refer to it as IPM, Integrated Pest Management. Instead of relying on just synthetic chemistry, there's so many different strategies one can bring into as a strategy, and to achieve a healthy environment for all. And it's quite pleasant. In a lot of the areas I work in, there's often hippos living in and around the citrus orchards, duikers. Here in Hoedspruit, there's been a couple of times where there's been leopards seen in the citrus orchards or the surrounding fields. So it speaks volumes for how when done correctly, agriculture can work with nature and we can thrive together. And I believe we all do have our equal space on this planet. Well, I think while we leave these lazy marabou stalks, I think there's something going on at Tau. Maybe there's also a bit more bird life actively doing their thing there. Seems like we've got one spoonbill. Doesn't seem to be too asleep. I think he's quite awake, being next to that large crocodile there. And the crocodile seems to be enjoying the most of the winter sun. I see our spoonbill's doing a bit of a balancing act. Normally they tend to bring the one leg up when they are sleeping or resting, but he might be resting slightly, but he does seem very aware of his surroundings, and he does not seem to be passing up any opportunities for a slight meal. Oh no, there we go. He's resumed his restful postures, also preening himself a bit there. Birds spend an incredible amount of time preening and looking after their feathers. It's quite interesting because obviously it's such an asset for them. If anything goes wrong with their feathers, they lose the ability to fly. In the spoonbill's case, also, since they've got a bit of a aquatic lifestyle, they rely on the feathers to keep them dry and warm. So quite a bit of care goes into looking after their feathers. So they often use their bill. Feathers tend to fit together almost the way a zip does on your clothes. So that's why you often see them rubbing their beak down along the feathers just to reform the structures if they've been put out of place during flight or foraging. Seems like the crocodile is peacefully passing away the day there. I'm sure he's not as asleep as he possibly looks. He's just waiting for the next opportunity to come by. And it is to be interesting to note, as much as that crocodile appears to be far from the water, if he needed to get into the water rapidly, it would happen in the blink of an eye. It is truly frightening how quick they are able to move. I think that is a mistake a lot of people make when visiting Africa or other parts of the world where crocodiles are present. It's unbelievable how much speed they can generate with their bodies, mainly derived from the tail. But that's what makes them supreme predators. Appears as if we've got a few zebras and wildebeest on the plains. For a second it did look like there was a large raptor. It might have been a goose. I didn't see 100%. There does appear to be some blacksmith lapwings on the back there. Also some moorhens. Of course, another crocodile on the side. Ah, there we go. It appears to be that is a red-knobbed coot from what I can tell. Not as exciting as a raptor. Apologies, everyone. Appears as if the wildebeest and the zebra are just passing away the afternoon. The wildebeest are more than likely ruminating there. I see a crocodile cruising through the water. But definitely quite a warm day in that part of the world. But Madikwe is also relatively closer to the Kalahari than most of the other waterholes. You can see it is quite dry, but it is interesting how warm it can be in the middle of the day, but the mornings quickly dip into the lower degrees Celsius. It's not foreign for it to do a -2 or -1 every now and then. Just recently returned from a holiday with my family. We went to Pilanesberg and Marikele National Park on the western side of South Africa. It was quite a change to experience such cold temperatures. I must say the Lowveld and the areas near, or in the Greater Kruger itself, definitely don't experience such low temperatures. So it was quite an adjustment, but it it was wonderful to enjoy a different type of bush. Can definitely see there is quite a level of caution from the game when it comes to visiting this waterhole. They are definitely well aware of the fact that there are a few large reptiles lurking. Oh, here comes an elephant.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
At Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change.
Would you like to know at what age a buffalo calf gets its horns? These are questions that you can ask me in real time. Our safaris are live and interactive here in the heart of Africa. Join me on Safari Live and connect with nature.
Welcome to Safari Spotlight. We'll be
And you pretend like you're a citizen, eh?
Got no idea what's going on this reserve. Expecting the unexpected.
Are we stuck down there?
What am I trying to do?
So we have another giant of Mabula.
That was incredible.
This is unbelievable.
It's going to be a spectacular afternoon.
Every month, something wild lands in your inbox. From rare sightings and behind-the-scenes secrets to expert stories, seasonal changes, and exclusive travel opportunities, the Wild Earth Journal is your free monthly mailer, packed with the magic of the wild straight from the field. It's fun, it's free, it's full of surprises. Sign up now on the Wild Earth website.
It's very interesting. It appears our dominant bull is definitely still monopolizing his access to the water inlet. Doesn't seem to be keen on sharing. Oh wow, here comes that magnificent eland bull. Oh, dominant bull has spoken, just reminding them of his dominance. But shame now, you can see the zebras and eland are obviously quite thirsty and desperate for a drink of water so that they can continue with their afternoon. See, there's also a few oryx, or gemsbok as we call them in South Africa, on the fringes at the back there. I think they can obviously wait a bit more compared to the zebras, but Obviously for the zebras, this drink of water is quite important to them. They will need to drink quite regularly. Trying to see if I can see the elephant with its damaged trunk from that snare injury, but I don't think I can see him. It'd be interesting to see what effect that injury has on his drinking capabilities. I think here he's approach. Yeah, here he is. Oh, he's about to chase the zebra and eland away a bit, maybe. Shame, it's never nice to see an animal injured, but it does seem like he has still quite a bit of control over the tip of his trunk. Jive Bunny saying the Eldonia is a bit like the bodybuilder's bar. I think that's very true. You've got to wait for your turn in line, or you've got to be very agile. But there's certainly a status quo when it comes to using this waterhole. It's quite interesting. It appears as if that elephant bull, with his injury, it's only the one side of the trunk that's I'd say cut like that, so he's still able to hold water with the other side. I mean, we can see he's not really dripping any water onto the floor, and what's also quite interesting, it almost appears as if he's angling his trunk to drink from that side specifically. It's quite amazing to see how elephants are capable of adapting. It is truly fascinating to see how he's managed to overcome this injury, and he is quite a large, impressive bull in quite good condition. I don't think he appears to be worse for wear. I wonder if the oryx are playing the very patient game, or they are not actually thirsty at the moment and they're just having a rest. Doesn't seem to be a small animal there. I'm truly blown away by this elephant's ability to negotiate the challenges of his injury. It's quite amazing. I remember when I was quite a bit younger, we went camping in Wangi National Park in Zimbabwe, and also in the dry season, and early the one morning we were woken to the sounds of the tap running, and once the sun had risen, well, we'd obviously turned the tap off by then, but when the sun rose we realized the elephant had strolled through the middle of our campsite, gone to the tap, opened it, and drank water and then left. Obviously he knew how to open the tap but not necessarily close it. It's fascinating how aware and sensitive, or how they're capable of achieving certain things. It does appear like the small birds hopping around are white-browed sparrow weavers. I'd be quite interested to know if they are the same sparrow weavers we get down here in South Africa. They look almost identical. And see, we've also got a dove that has joined us. I did quickly consult with one of my bird guides. It does appear the sparrow weaver we get in South Africa is the same one, so the white-browed sparrow weaver. And the sneaky dove lurking on the edge there as well. Be interested to know if there's maybe also maybe a bit of an inlet there for. Eagle Lover, you're asking when do reserves intervene in the case of snare injuries? All the time. So the main principle is if it's harm done to animals by mankind, then we are obliged to step in and fix the situation, because it was not the animal's fault that they got into that situation in the first place. So, I mean, in this case, we can see this elephant has received an old injury, and there's no longer a snare present. Unfortunately, the damage done by a snare is quite permanent. But yeah, whenever possible, if it's reported, reserve personnel will act on it and try find the animal and either sedate or help in any way they can. But the response is immediate. Often in the Kruger Park, for example, if visitors see anything, they are urged to contact park authorities as soon as possible with GPS coordinates, and park authorities will act on it, whether it's as small as a duiker to as big as an elephant. They will make a difference if it is a human inflicted injury or caused by mankind in some way or form.
katika mwanga wa mwezi, kivuli hutembea, mrembo mweusi anayepotea, macho yake ni taa, gizani huwaka, fuvu la msitu, malkia anayejificha.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
Would you like to know the difference between a male and female wildebeest? You can ask me questions like this in real time. Our safaris are live and interactive here in the heart of Africa. Join me on Safari Live and connect with nature.
Desert or arid adapted animals compared to some of the other antelope. When one goes, for example, to the Kalahari Desert or even Etosha, gemsbok tend to dominate those type of habitats, and eland also don't do too badly in the drier habitats. Quite similar if you looked at eland distribution in the Kruger National Park. You won't see them in the south of the park, but in the drier northern sections of the park, in that Mopani veld, where the rainfall is quite a bit less, that's where you will often see eland herds. And there's not a lot of eland in the Kruger, but those are your best areas to see them. I have been fortunate to see them on 1 or 2 occasions, and you can definitely tell they're a lot happier in that drier Mopani veld. See, unfortunately, our eland builders decided to leave us. It's amazing to note the subtle differences between these oryx and the one that we get in South Africa, or Southern Africa. I think that would be more accurate. Just very similar, but not completely the same either. Their coats look quite a bit more smooth or well finished off, in my opinion, but also a bit more dull compared to our Southern African species. Looks like mainly a few cows if I judge the horns. They've got a bit of curvature to them. Also don't notice any genitalia that show that they're males, but this one lying down I also think is a female. Those horns look a bit curved to me. Just 2 elephants remaining at the waterhole. They were probably quite low on the drinking hierarchy, so I think they're going to capitalize on the opportunity before they also head out on their afternoon foraging mission. As you all know, elephants require an incredible amount of vegetation to keep them going, and they aren't the best, or their digestive tract is not incredibly well developed, so they tend to pass out a lot of vegetation without extracting all the nutrients they can from it. In a way it would be it's almost a bit like a treadmill running permanently. It needs quite a bit of fuel to keep it going. So I'm sure they won't spend too much longer drinking, but they are enjoying it. Bill says they did look at this bull several years ago. Felt more damage would be done if they intervened. It does certainly appear as if he's been able to cope since then. I imagine then it's not such an old injury. Obviously it's a few years old, but clearly not something he's been stuck with for his entire life. But I think often we as humans forget how adaptable nature can be. Obviously, it is best when we don't intervene, don't cause the problem in the first place, or interfere. I think that's a better word. But there is a balance. Obviously, in a case like this, if it's quite hard to make sure that elephant's trunk completely heals if there is action taken, etc. Because it's not like this animal would be in a clinical situation where it can be kept clean every day, or the wound can be looked after. So I think it's also quite a challenge as a wildlife vet with the type of patients you're dealing with. It has to be practical as well. But it does certainly appear that the bull is in very good condition nonetheless. So it appears as if the bird life is a bit quieter this afternoon around Oldonyo. I don't know if it's maybe the wind. We can see there's a bit of a constant breeze. I don't know how hard it's gusting there, but that will also sometimes send the birds searching for refuge. I know often when the wind howls here in Hoedspruit, there's not a lot of action in front of my bird feeders or waterholes, unfortunately. You just have to wait it out until the wind stops. And there we've got a nice sighting of a superb starling beneath that elephant bull. It also appears as if there's some red-billed buffalo weavers that have come down. Quite comical the way they run around the waterhole. They can be quite noisy birds, and the way they build their nests is not the neatest either. They tend to create quite large, messy structures of grass. Here in Hoedspruit, they like to do it on the telephone poles or the electricity pylons, and they become quite large structures. Still some zebras coming in. I think they might be working out an approach angle, how to get to the right side of the waterhole. They also seem rather excited to have a drink for the day. A couple galloping in from the back even. I think the elephants even may be feeling a bit outnumbered with this large zebra herd that's come rushing in. But these zebra were definitely not too worried. I'd say thirst has emboldened them a bit. And a large eland bull is also using this opportunity to sneak in for some more water. It's quite amazing to see how much taller he is at the shoulder compared to the zebra. And even then the zebra is not a small animal. Emmanuel, you're saying you see an elephant with an injured trunk. Yes, we've saw this bull a bit earlier in the show. From what Bill said earlier, it appears as if this injury took place several years ago. Does not appear to have any lasting effect or interference on the elephant. Unfortunately, that damage will never heal. It's obviously severed nerves, etc., where it's cut through, and it won't rejaw. It's obviously already healed, but yeah, the trunk on that section won't join again. But he is still able to drink. It seems like the other nasal canal is not affected, so I'd say obviously a lucky break for this elephant, and also evidence of how adaptable they are. we've certainly got quite a zebra party going on here. They have quickly taken the spotlight away from the original bodybuilders that were hanging around here. Certainly appears as if the elephants are a bit intimidated anyway. Kim commenting how majestic and beautiful the elephant bulls are. They certainly are. I don't think there's a more beautiful scene in Africa, a large elephant bull just lording over the waterhole. It's quite stunning. A few years ago on a work trip I stayed at a property that bordered on the Botswana border, and there were wild elephants that passed by. Oh, there we go, bit of excitement from the Ellies. But yeah, it was quite magical staying at that property. And at lunch or at night you would just have the elephants coming in, and the little tents were right against the waterhole. It was quite a privilege to sit there silently and observe the elephants just going on about their daily activities at the waterhole. It is where I learned that elephants can be a bit bullyish at a waterhole with each other and other animals when it comes to getting hold of the fresh water. It certainly does always seem to us as humans there's plenty to go around, but obviously competition works a bit more different in nature itself. Duncan would like to know if sometimes elephants give birth to blind calves. Duncan, obviously that is always a possibility, depending on factors such as genetic defects, developmental abnormalities, something goes wrong during the gestation of the calf, or infections or trauma during pregnancy. So it can happen. I don't think it happens a lot of the time, and I don't think it's very noticeable in the wild, because a calf and a blind elephant calf in a situation like that may not survive very long, even with the caring and protective environment elephant cows provide their calves. Obviously it will struggle to follow its mother. It can rely on smell, but I don't think it would survive very long. So it might not be evident that a calf is necessarily blind at an older age, because it may not survive that long. I'm sure in captivity it would be a bit of a different situation, but more of a protected and caring environment where the calf does not need to worry, and it could rely on its sense of smell, and it doesn't need to travel as far. But I do think it would be a bit of quite a big disability that would negatively affect the calf's survival chances quite heavily.
Now this leopard that we're looking at is known by the name of Hlalamba.
The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website.
This is what they call a shambe, a family, a whole herd of elephants.
But nature is beyond amazing. Nature is just everything.
We'd love to hear from you. Questions, comments about biology, Africa, safari.
She's using her tail like a monkey.
And as quickly as he chases them off, the zebras just come back in again. Certainly does seem like a few less of them. Wildlife lady, yeah, this is certainly a very beautiful scene with all these zebras. I don't think there's well, I think I can't conjure a more magical African scene with herds or large herds of zebras roaming or milling about. I know a few times myself when traveling in the Kruger National Park, when you come across a large herd of zebras, it is truly striking just to watch them move and behave. And the sounds they create, I think it's also quite a unique sound. Certainly a bit of antics going on between the zebras. Probably a few stallions, yeah, there's a few kicks and biting taking place. It is unfortunate that zebras are so aggressive towards each other, and they're not afraid to do each other harm. And sometimes it can be quite permanent or negative. Near where I stay, there was a female zebra. She developed an abscess on the side of her face from a kick from one of the zebras in the herd. And obviously in this case it was a bit of a smaller lifestyle property, so they were willing to intervene, and they did call the vet to sedate and clean her wound. Obviously that would not be the normal case in a wildlife reserve or national park. That animal would be left to fend for itself, as it wasn't a result of human actions. But it is an eye-opener for how aggressive zebra can be with one another. I see a majority of the herd seems to be moving back off into the bush now. If I had to take a quick guess, I would say it's easily been about 100 zebra that have come to visit us. But I think now that they're moving off, we're going to maybe go have a look at what's going on at Tembe. Probably a bit more elephant action. Well, they don't call it Tembe Elephant Park for nothing. All the elephants are milling about here, also making the most of the weather. Obviously a normal day in northern KZN, where Tembe is generally quite warm and hot, so the elephants do rely quite a bit on these pans in the sand forests. It does seem like quite a strong wind is blowing at the back then. Just a reminder to anyone else who's maybe joined, this is a live and interactive show. Please feel free to drop your questions and see if we can answer them. It seems as if there's quite a bit of excitement with this bull on the left here and some of these cows that are moving in. You can see this bull's got a bit of his own swagger going on as he approaches some of the females. We have a question from Siyabonga if there's zebras in Tembe and if they get along with the elephant. As far as I'm understanding correctly, there is a bit of a zebra population in Tembe. I've also been there a few times in my life. It's quite a pretty park. They tend to stick. There's a quite a large open marshland on the eastern side of the park, and the zebra tend to hang around more there. Obviously, it's a bit safer for them. Passing through the sand forest is to their disadvantage. That thick bush sets them up for ambushes with the elephants. With the lions. Beg my pardon. But yeah, I think most of the time there won't be too much of a conflict between the zebras and the elephant. But yeah, I think that's also generally why you don't often see zebras at Tembe. This pan isn't quite a, I mean, as much as it's open around the pan, it's quite thick around it, and the vegetation is thick. So hence why the lions tend to hang around in the vicinity, and you generally see impala and nyala most of the time at this waterhole. Obviously they thrive a bit more in thicker vegetation compared to zebra and wildebeest that do better on wildlife, on open plains.
Join me for a magical safari to India, a wildly exotic land of tigers, temples and Kipling. To start, we'll head to Pench and then to Doba to look for the famed Bengal tiger, as well as deer in the dappled forests, sloth bears and countless birds. We'll stay in stunning eco-lodges that blend luxury with a light footprint. Our Indian adventure culminates in Agra with a sunrise visit to the Taj Mahal.
Some of you out there are brilliant at identifying hyenas.
Now, why do you think people have got this huge misunderstanding about reptiles?
Right in front of me there was the face of an astounded buffalo bull.
This is live and interactive, so everybody, if you have any questions and comments, please do send them through and let us know what you would like.
Silence is important. You don't want the animals to know you are there. Stefano would like to know if elephant bulls fight for mating rights. Stefano, they do. So what will normally happen is a elephant bull will enter into must, and he tends to be more dominant and assertive in conditions like that. Generally, other elephant bulls will avoid a bull in must, or if they themselves are dominant, they may challenge that bull, or if they themselves are also entering must. But certainly the bull that is dominant will assert his dominance, and if he's challenged, there will be a bit of a territorial fight. Sometimes it can get quite serious where they end up killing one another. That has happened a few times, or that happens often. There's in the Kruger National Park and the Letaba Elephant Museum, there's a skull of an elephant that was unfortunately impaled by a larger, more dominant bull during the fight. So they will sometimes get into a fight if they're quite equally matched in size and strength, but most of the time, if they can sense the other bull is a bit more dominant, they will be submissive and avoid the interaction. The list where you'd like to know how many liters of water an elephant drinks in a day. So they can drink up to about 200 or consume about 200 liters of water a day. Obviously depends on a number of factors, temperature, the condition of the animal, numerous factors. And obviously if they're in quite an arid environment, they'll probably stock up on a lot more water before leaving a waterhole. Whereas if they've got access to freely available water, they may drink less often, as they know they'll have the opportunity to drink later in the day again. And where they're traveling, there might also be more waterholes or pans along their route for the day. Lucy is asking, how do elephants communicate? Lucy, elephants have quite a complex way of communicating. They use vocalizations that sometimes we can hear, trumpeting, screaming, guttural grumbling, etc. There's also low frequency sounds that we cannot even pick up. You'll often see elephants sometimes placing their trunk on the ground, and by doing that they can pick up the vibrations of other elephants many kilometers away, and they can also through their feet they're able to also pick up the vibrations, so they communicate through audio cues like that. They're able to communicate through physical displays, by raising their head, asserting dominance, flapping their ears out to make themselves look bigger or more dominant. And even then there's chemical cues, the way a calf may sniff its mother to make sure it's its mother, or find out things, same as a cow might sniff her calf to get ideas of its well-being. That's why you often see elephants also greeting each other in a way when they stick their trunks in each other's mouths. So there's also a whole, you could use smell or taste, but essentially picking up chemical receptors to carry across those messages. I see we've got some woolly neck storks in the back pan there, also some Egyptian geese, but the woolly neck storks don't seem very perturbed about their presence. These woolly neck storks will probably be trying to find some amphibians or snails and any other insects that they can fit down their throats. If I'm not mistaken, the name for woolly neck stork is now referred to as the African woolly neck stork. There was a few name changes that took place for quite a few birds across the globe as taxonomists refine and hone their crafts. And thanks to DNA sequencing, they're able to more accurately decide when birds are maybe two different species or one species, and this obviously takes place due to the fact birds have wings and they're able to fly great distances. So there's a lot of genetic movement between some birds, and they are able to they're not necessarily isolated, and it doesn't actually make them a species on their own. Obviously, well, out of interest sake for anyone wondering what the other woolly neck stork is, it is the Asian woolly neck stork. So that is where the split took place between the African and the Asian woolly neck stork. You can see them slowly disappearing into the reeds. I'm sure that they know that is quite a good foraging area. Things look like they've quietened down quite a bit here at Tembe. I think we're going to go have a look at Victoria Falls, see what's going on there. It appears as if our marabou storks have moved a bit closer. And they are definitely taking the day very leisurely. They've either had some good feeding and they are just resting after a hard day's work. It's always quite comical for me to see sometimes how they perch like that. Almost looks like they're kneeling a bit. JP, I do keep a bird list. I've got maybe a number of lists, but I initially started with my own life list. I'd say that's probably my most important one. But I've also learned to enjoy listing birds in different categories. If I go to a game reserve over a weekend, I'll try to see how many birds I can see for the weekend. Sometimes if we do longer trips, I'll keep a list just for that trip. I also have a list for the birds around my house. I like to challenge myself to see what we can see in or around the house. I'd say it almost becomes a bit of an addiction once you get into it, and it's quite fun because it keeps you looking at all the birds, and not just for new birds to grow your life list, but you actually learn to appreciate all the birds in different scenarios. Once again, another good example of how much time birds spend on cleaning and preening their feathers and maintaining them. Like we were discussing earlier, what an asset birds' feathers are to them, so they can't afford for them to be in a bad condition. Obviously without them they can't fly, they can't find food, avoid predators, and feathers also keep them warm, so they also rely on them for temperature or body temperature regulation. question from Daniela. If I find myself thinking differently since I started working with the wild or nature, I think so. I think it's definitely an interesting journey one finds self on when you open yourself up to the lessons of nature, or you want to learn more about nature. In a way, it's almost a book that doesn't stop teaching. The more you open yourself up to it, the more you can learn, and it's almost endless. And I think it does change your perspective on a lot of things. Things are never as simple as they perhaps seem, or never as straightforward. Often things are very complex and interlinked, and it's just amazing how long the system has been going on like that. Our mankind interference is maybe a blip on the geological timescale, but yeah, nature will be here for many thousands of years, and I think that's probably one of the biggest takeaways is we need to learn to work with it and not without it. We're just as much dependent on the system, and I think a lot more people could bring a lot of positivity into their lives by taking a few lessons from nature. Quite interesting, we can see these impala here rushing towards this salt lick. Some of them are actually even kicking it now, trying to break a few pieces off. Obviously in the height of the dry season, and we can see it's quite dry here at Victoria Falls, normal mineral supplements are not readily available in the bush, where they might get it from leaves or grass, especially due to the fact in winter trees start storing their nutrients down in their roots. So a browser like an impala would not necessarily get access to it from leaves. So this is why they are coming to the salt lick at the waterhole for a bit of mineral supplement, just to kind of keep them strong and healthy. Quite similar to us taking vitamin C boosters in winter to keep cold and flu and illness at bay.
This is an unbelievable afternoon.
My full name is Cedric Leslie Dold. I grew up mostly here in the Lowveld. I grew up here pretty much on the southern side of Kruger National Park, a place called Marlow Park, for most of my years. Something surprising about myself, I did play drums in a band
for many years. Best sighting I've presented. It's we found Columba and the 2 cubs, and the cubs are just way big.
Hyenas love bathing.
Can you hear that? The wild is calling.
It does appear as if there's... No, I don't think it's oxpecker. Sorry, I thought that was an oxpecker, but I think it is a leaf. No, it was maybe an oxpecker on that male impala. See, it has flown off, unfortunately. It's quite interesting to notice in the bush. There's only certain animals that will tolerate oxpeckers on them. For example, impalas are one of them, but an animal that won't tolerate oxpeckers on them is a wildebeest. So they tend to just run away or just jump around a bit, so it's impossible for the oxpeckers to stay on. There's been a lot of research done on it, and one can read up on it, but it seems to have a lot to do with the shagginess of the coat or the length of hair on the animal, whether they're herd animals or not, and also they speak of the tick load. So obviously some certain animals are more predisposed to having ticks on them, whereas others aren't. But yeah, impalas are one of the animals that will often have oxpeckers grooming them. Hi Deb D. No, I must say, unfortunately, I have been across the pond. I have been to the eastern side of North America, or the US, in New Hampshire. But unfortunately, I wasn't much of a birder back then. Foolishly, I do kick myself. But I do remember seeing a few birds, such as cardinals and turkeys. But I certainly do wish I was a bit more into my birding. And it is a dream of mine to go back and look at a few birds in America, but for now I just make do with all the birds in our back door here in South Africa. It is quite amazing to know I've mainly birded in the eastern and northern parts of South Africa, and I haven't really been to the Cape, and it's interesting to know how many birds are just there or endemic species and birds to be seen there. The South African list of birds is almost about 1,000 different species, so there's definitely quite enough to keep you busy for quite a while. I think I should probably one of these days start a waterhole list. Joan asking if the rain dissolves the salt block. Joan, I believe it will have an impact to an extent. I think it just depends on how heavy the rain is, for how long it rains. I think a small downpour won't do too much, but they are quite hard, and it's not your it's a bit of a different format of your standard table salt you maybe use at home. And I think also obviously the mixture of saliva coating it, dust and dirt being kicked onto it also seals it a bit, but yeah, it's quite hard. I remember as a kid when we used to go to family friends' farms and we tried to pick them up. They are very large and solid pieces of rock that don't come apart easily, and but there's quite a few different types on the market nowadays. There's ones that are mixed with aloe vera and a bit of minerals, etc., that aren't purely salt. They almost they're mixed with molasses and a bit of feed. But generally the salt blocks last quite a bit of time. And with even some herbivores, you'll actually, if you approach the salt block, you'll see they actually try bite chunks out of it. I think they tend to break it up a lot quicker than the rain really gets a chance to spread it. I remember as a young boy, we once went to visit friends in Zimbabwe, and on the conservancy there were elephants, and the problem with putting salt lick out for elephants, etc., is they tend to move the salt rocks before the other herbivores get a chance. So what they would do is they would loosen the soil up and spread the coarse salt in that little area, and then mix it again with water, that it would kind of the mud would harden again, and the bits of salt would distribute it in the soil. Maybe a bit more of a natural and aesthetically pleasing way, but yeah, that was one way they did it to stop the elephants from ruining the animals' fun. Let's see, we do have a few oxpeckers jumping on the impalas while they visit the salt lick here. It appears to be a red-billed oxpecker. It's also worth noting in southern Africa, your two oxpecker species, the yellow-billed and the red-billed. The red-billed oxpecker tends to stick to the herbivores like impala, giraffe. You will find it on almost all the herbivores, whereas if you are looking for yellow-billed oxpeckers, the best place to look for them is generally on buffalo. But that's not always a golden rule. You will sometimes find red-billed oxpeckers on a herd of buffalo, and they do sometimes unfortunately hybridize. So you need to be a bit sharp on your ID skills. But generally the easiest way if you're looking for them is to find a herd of buffalo and scan for a yellow-billed oxpecker. It's also maybe one of your best alarm systems if you ever find yourself walking in the African bush and you hear the hard screeching call of or more like, I wouldn't call it too much of a screech, but more a scratchy call of an oxpecker. It means there are generally game nearby, and you should, if you see them flying off, your animals might be nearby, or you need to look carefully. In some cases, if you're in a big 5 area, you should look extra carefully, because it might be that you're close to a herd of buffalo or even a rhino. Obviously those are the only 2 big game animals that allow oxpeckers onto them. Elephants do not allow oxpeckers onto them. It's quite a challenge, I think, for the oxpeckers when you're dealing with an animal with a prehensile trunk.
I feel it is a rosetted morning for us. So yes, let's see what we can find. Even our hyena coming into the action as well now. Oh my word! She's stalking the hyena now. leopard, hyena, lion all together in one shot. Oh. This is action-packed. My full name is Cedric Leslie Dold. The best driver at Wild Earth, it is me. I believe I'm the best driver. I think so, because I've... Best part of my job, I say, is just to try and look out for these animals, track them down. I love tracking animals. I love looking for, you know, fresh tracks, and if you can find them, it's just at the moment of accomplishment. If I wasn't a presenter for Wild Earth, I would be the drummer for AC/DC.
Step into the heart of Africa from the comfort of your home.
Female leopard tracks over here.
Join our expert guides for a live 3-hour safari where every moment is real, unscripted, and unforgettable. Ask questions.
Animals rely on their senses.
Share your thoughts and be part of the experience as we explore together. Safari Live.
Out here, every wild moment counts, and as a Wild Earth explorer, you will not miss out. Watch the Wild Earth channel ad-free 24/7, and you can even rewind if you have missed out on something. Enjoy the behind-the-scenes video clips as well as fireside chat, or get the early offers on our travel experiences. It's the best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
It's always quite entertaining watching the antics of hippos in a waterhole. They look like they're bubbling and jumping around inside there. Slowly see the crocodile drifting out of the screen there. And we've got a blacksmith lapwing that just flown into view. I don't think there's many waterholes in South Africa where you would not see a blacksmith lapwing in southern Africa. Incredibly territorial birds, and they're not afraid to take anyone on. When we were recently visiting a different reserve in South Africa, there was a flock of inland gulls that came to a dam, and obviously many of the birds weren't happy about it, but there was of course the blacksmith's lapwings that were willing to fight and chase the seagulls off, or the gulls off, that were almost double their size. Also another 2 large elephant bulls sating their thirst. It's quite an interesting phenomenon to see how much hippos enjoy lying out of the water during the winter months or the dry season in Africa, or southern Africa for that matter. Obviously with the colder temperatures they prefer to get out of the water, but spend a bit of time outside. We saw it ourselves the other day, traveling also to the colder parts of South Africa, and the majority of the hippos spent the day outside. They only really returned to the water in the late afternoon. But I don't blame them. I don't think I'd like to be in the water in the cold winter months here. It's been a really peaceful afternoon at the various waterholes. I think Aldonio really treated us, but it's quite nice to spend the last few minutes of the show here at Camelthorne. It's quite a nice new waterhole cam that we've been able to experience the last while. It'll be quite pretty, I think, to see it in the summertime when everything starts growing again. It's obviously quite dry in that part of Botswana, specifically not too far from the Kalahari. I'm sure these two elephant bulls are thinking of getting busy for the afternoon. It seems like everyone's completed their drinking for the afternoon. Now it's time to think about the afternoon feed. Once again, thanks everyone for the wonderful afternoon. I hope you thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope we learned a few new things.
Welcome to Safari Spotlight, an adventure to find Southern Africa's wildlife wonders. Join us on an enthralling virtual safari. Relax, learn, and be inspired. Discover gorgeous species, get to know iconic animal stars, and experience wonderful moments in conservation. If you'd like to plan an adventure and experience one of these wildlife locations, go over to Wild Earth Travel. The wild is calling.